All right, the recording has started, guys. I'm going to share the screen. All right, everyone. Very good afternoon. We are here
Yeah, good
today
afternoon.
to present the cultural project for our subject, Turtle Island. And well, it's a good project because it has helped us a lot to learn about the one of the societies of indigenous people. So before we start, I would just like to pinpoint the reason why we chose Haida people among all of them. As going through the researches that we have done, we have found them to be really strong in their region. With that, we'll start about where they belong to. So, before we start, let me just introduce our team members. We have myself, who is Utkarsh Mishra. We have Midun. We have Moeen. We have Sagar. Unfortunately, Rajbinder could not make it because she's not well. Her throat is still not fine. She's recovering. So, yeah, we will continue with our set of presentations. Let's talk about briefly about the Haida people. So, as we discussed, Haida are a indigenous group who are traditionally from Haida Gwaii. Haida Gwaii is basically an island, which is just few hundreds of kilometers from Vancouver in British Columbia, the modern day British Columbia. It was not called British Columbia when they had initially begun settling there. Um, Talking about that, it's officially said that they have been there for 8,000 years, but we have gone through many researches and it showed they have been there for as long as 17,000 years. So they are quite old and it has been their home for a very long time. So for Haida people, they were divided basically into two groups, which were Raven and Eagle. And as we go over the slides, my friends are going to tell about their societies more. But what I would like to pinpoint is they had their most important function, which was the potlatch, in which they used to discuss about their ranking orders, their governance. They used to discuss about the marriages. They used to have a lot of dances and festivals, and yeah, and they used to even pay respect to the deads in their community. So definitely, it was one of the most important event for them. And they used to actually plan that for many years before it actually happened. So it was the resources were not in abundance back then. Going over the next slide, we'll just talk about the key differences. So the differences are basically the pre-contact and post-contact, and we are quantifying it with the time when the European settlers started to colonize their land. Um, so before the contact happened, obviously each Haida village had an independent political unit, which my friends will discuss in the upcoming slides. Um, but obviously, when the settlers came, which was in 1700s, their land took a hit because the settlers started to colonize and invade them. Their business, the Haida people's business was obviously the trading of fishes with other indigenous societies at that point of time. But when the European settlers came, they started dealing with fishes as well as furs. So um, they they sort of knew that if they had to survive, they would need to do some business with them, and so did they. Um, as I mentioned over the slide, the pre-contact population of Haida people was initially tens of thousands. Could be 17,000 or 20,000 or maybe more than that. Obviously, we didn't have the census back then, but it is said that they were in huge numbers. However, when the whites arrived, when the settlers arrived, um, along came many diseases and viruses like smallpox and typhoid, which basically killed them. And it is said that in 1900s, their population was as low as 600. So many of them basically died. Yeah. Moving on to the next slide, we would like to point out that it was supposed to be carried out by our team member Rajawinda, but as she's not here, I will be taking up those. So she has done a good research over the website haidanation.ca, and which basically mentioned about the Haida governance structure because it was very important. And as you would read, they were very much inclined with the modern day politics. So their governance structure incorporated the hereditary chiefs, of course, where the leadership was passed around from the mother line, the matrilineal. It followed the matrilineal principle, which is very different, to be very frank, because in the modern day dictatorship or what we have seen in the past, the power used to shift from either father to son or from the brothers to brothers. But in this one, it was very different. And as I had mentioned before, um, they had two distinct clans, which was Eagle and Raven, and they both had their own respective governance. And to establish that, they used to actually have legislative and executive functions, um, who would take care of the regional as well as national issues, as we would see, and which again is very synonymous to the modern day political system. So yeah, they had. As I move over to the next slide, I would like to say that they had the four main councils, which is as mentioned here: the Skidgate Band Council, the Old Bassett Village Council, the Council of the Haida Nation, the Haida Gwaii Management, and of course, they were the ones who would be playing the major role in managing their day-to-day activities, running their trades, and the safety. All of these things matter a lot. They even have an influence even in the modern day Canada because they are very much in they exchange dialogues with the Canadian government who is in the power, the main government, and they advocate for their rights and the safeguarding of the very minimal population because even right now they are probably less than 5,000, so they want to protect their lineage, and they should definitely because they belong to a great community, and they have the land planning and they obviously have some reserve votes in the Canadian government as well as per our researchers. So yeah, they have their rights and they always take care of it. And as they have been a fighter, as always, and so they are fighting today for their own people, their own skin. And with that, I would like to pass on the presentation to Moin.
Okay. Good afternoon, guys. Thank you, Utkesh, for giving such a wonderful introduction. So now I will
Yeah.
continue with my uh, presentation. So my part is to define what are the sovereignty issues faced by Haida people. So coming to the issues, the first issue was land right. As you know, I mean, uh, Haida people have enjoyed their land rights still before the arrival of this colonizer French people. But after colonization, their lands were taken away, and they found discrimination, and they were not able to sustain because they were not able to do farming or agriculture, so anything. So this is one of the main issue it was faced by Haida people. So they also made efforts to reclaim their lands and assert their sovereignty over the traditional territories. Uh, and also, as we know, this land plays a major role for sustenance, and also in some communities they have uh, their they look at their lands in a very spiritual way, and same way the Haida people also had deep connection with their lands. So it is very significant for them to gain their land rights back. Uh, can you pass on to the next slide, Mr. Fish?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so on the second sovereignty issue was faced by Haida people was resource management. So Haida people had a strong interest in the management and conservation of natural resources, uh, especially to with the connection with the ecology to make sustenance with the ecological by maintaining the ecological balance. Uh, and there also they had problem with this cultural integrity on their territories. As you know, I mean, after this French has arrived, so this commercialization of their lands and also the way the fishing was done was disturbing the nature. So they want to use resources properly, and also they are trying to advocating for sustainable resource management and co-management agreements with governments and also industry stakeholders to maintain their resources. Okay, can you pass on to the next slide? Okay, now the next part is self-governance. As we know, without proper governance, any community cannot thrive or survive for a long time. So it is the case also with the Haida people. So they had uh, the decision-making process had so much effect on their communities with the with the French people. So they want to control uh, over their governance system, and also they want to develop their own laws, policies, and regulations. Also, they have also engaged in negotiations with government, the current government, to for their to inherent jurisdiction or jurisdiction, and also the government also had recognized their importance of self-governance, and also they are continuing dialogues with the Haida people. And hopefully, I mean, we think, I mean, like they have their own self-governance to maintain and fund for their survival. Can you pass on the next slide? Okay, and as we know, recognition also plays a major role uh, for any community because it is a self-respect for any community to have been recognized. And so Haida community is advocating for respect, also for whatever the past injustices has been done to them. Uh, and maybe it might be because of the colonization, and also they were taken away from their education, and also cultural assimilation policies, which also made them systematically uh, injustice. And also these other people also had actively involved in reconciliation process for pursuing legal avenues to address historical and ongoing injustices. So, shall we pass on to the next slide? Okay, now the final is cultural preservation. So Haida people want to preserve their culture and their traditions, language, and heritage. Because it is very important because they're already in small numbers, so it can extend at any point of time if it is not being preserved. So the nation is engaged in so efforts to promote cultural revitalization, including language programs, art initiatives, and the protection of their sacred sites. So with this, I conclude my discussion, and I will pass on to Sir Sagar to continue.
Thank you very much, Muin. You explained very well. Now I would like to explain their ways of knowing of Haida people. The Haida people possesses a distinctive culture heritage that include a variety of ways of knowing that shape their identities and worldviews. They have their own dancing styles and songs. They learn how to survive in forest from their ancestor. Along with this, they also learn how to survive in difficult condition. Use the different kind of resources. Now Utkarsh, please move to next slide. I would like to talk about culture and practices. The culture of Haida people is rich and diverse, and they are passing their culture to new generations. These people engage in polaches, which are ceremonial gatherings in which they share their bonds and celebrate important events. These people are skilled craftsmen in canoe carving, and they use it for transportation purpose. And respect of all living creature is rooted in their culture. They give gift to each other in their religious functions. uh, please move to the next slide. Okay, thank you. Now I would like to talk about their spirituality and traditions. These people are interconnected with land, sea, and all creatures. They believe the existence of supernatural beings, Ravan and Eagle, who are often depicted in their myths and artwork. They organize various ceremonies for maintaining balance in the communities. They have strong oral tradition. They generally passed down their history by storytelling. They are known for their art and craftsmanship, including jewelry making and carving. They treat cedar tree as a tree of life. They drive canoes, shelter, clothing, and medicine from timber roots and bark of the cedar tree. I would like to pass to Midun.
Midun, can you hear
So,
us?
yeah, yeah. So I'm so sorry. Uh, thank you, Saga. Thank you, Saga. Myself, Midun. I am here to share the learning experience and also wrap up this session. So, to give an outline about the Haida people. So, about the learning experience, actually, it was a wonderful experience to learn about the Haida because it's one among the indigenous tribe in Canada, the place which we are residing now, and also it's an important to recognize and respect their culture, diversity, and heritage of indigenous people like Haida, and to respect their own effort towards self-determination and cultural preservation and social justice. And moving on to the next slide to give an overview about Haida. Haida refers to a group of indigenous people, and traditionally they are located in North America, some parts of British Columbia, and also some other parts of Alaska and also United States. Haida people have a rich cultural heritage, and they are known for their distinctive art and language and social organization. They have a deep connection with their land, sea, and strong emphasis on their conservation. Historically, they are relied heavily on ocean and rich resources of their forest. And Haida, they are skilled craftsmen and they are hunters with well equipped with their weapons, and their art and culture reflects their close relationship with the natural world. And Haida, as Utkarsh stated before, Haida, they are divided into two social groups. One is Ravan and another one is Eagle. And moving to the next slide. Okay. Uh, and Haida, they are renowned for their complicated carving, especially on wooden works and all those things. And they depicted their ancestral stories, animals, and supernatural beings. And Haida mythology and spiritually, they are internal to their own culture. And their official, we can say their official ceremony as Potlatch, and because they are performing this art form especially on their some functions like their marriages or name giving ceremonies. And about their language, Sadkil is their official language. And actually, it was engaged language. Nowadays, Canada government is taking initiative through language programs and cultural activities to initiate this, to preserve this language. And I will call Haida people as, I would like to call them as Vikings of Canada, because they fight for their land, especially on the arrival of British long back. They fight with their own weapons and they fight for their land. They are fearless. So I will call them as Vikings of Canada. So I would like to uh, invite Utkarsh to continue the presentation.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for the lovely presentation. As we come towards the end, there's a very important question which is asked, that why project managers should learn about indigenous people. I mean, they are in a very small numbers, but as it might seem unnecessary for the outsiders, it's for people who are in Canada, it's very important to learn about indigenous people and especially Haida people. It helps us, number one, to avoid being insensitive towards their culture, towards their language, towards their, you know, day-to-day activities. Because even if they are smaller numbers, they are there and they are, working, on in a day-to-day job, just like other foreign people and or the residents of Canada. So there would come a time when you would find one of the indigenous people in your team. At that point of time, it will be important for you to know their legal rights, because indigenous people have their own legal rights, and it's important if you know their legal frameworks and the regulations and the rules that they follow, and all the work and basically the regulations that have been set by the Canadian government. And as I have mentioned, it will be better for a project manager to form better relationship with indigenous people, as they could take a bit extra time to feel comfortable within the team, with either the white people or the foreign people or whomsoever it is, because they are very attached with their lands, and they might think that the land still belongs to them. And as much as they have realized that we all live in harmony and peace with whomsoever comes in Canada, it's good to know about their interests and their well-being, so that we are not, as I have mentioned, we are not insensitive with them. Going through and making about this particular project, I have also got to know that whensoever their organization, whomsoever calls somebody from a foreign land, in the onboarding, during the onboarding, they are told about the indigenous people, so that they are aware about such societies which exist in Canada, and which is a very good initiative, because it exactly synonymous to what we are discussing here, that why it is important for a project manager or whomsoever it is for who is working here in Canada to know about indigenous people. And with that, I would like to wrap up. We have the references here. We have gone through a huge number of articles and websites to form a research and basically present this whole findings. We have watched hours of YouTube videos, as mentioned here, and the articles that has actually helped us to get this presentation where it is right now. And with that, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you everyone for listening to us, and thank you friends for presenting this beautifully. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you everyone.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Utkarsh.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Bye.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Tell him to stop the recording and come back. He left. Utkarsh has left. Is there?
No, I think he left.